Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Book Leads Impactful Books for Life and Leadership. I'm your host and leadership performance coach, John Jaramillo. This podcast series is about getting to the books that have impacted my network. So I want to know what book it is that my colleagues, people that I've met, people that I haven't met because of the pandemic. There's a lot of people that I've met that I've talked to so far for this series that I've never met because of the pandemic and the virtual world. And just through that virtual networking is how I met them. But they're impressive people. I love the way the way they bring themselves to social media, their projects, what they're sharing out there is all impressive. So anybody that I discuss a book with on here is just going to have something that they bring to the work that they do and their community. But I want to know what that book is that has contributed to who they are, what they do, and the value that they want to bring to whatever, whether it's their business, whether it's their work, whether it's their life, no matter what it is, what is that book that stands out? So originally it was asking people, what is the book that has stood out to you? Let's discuss it. And as I mentioned in episode 0, it's kind of gone down different paths. So first it was that book that stood out to you that I haven't read. Then some people were like, well, why don't we read a book together? This is one that I'm interested in. We could read it and then have the discussion on your series. So I said, of course. So that second category is books that I will have read alongside my guests, whether I do it at that moment or we've done it in the past. And then the third one is that I realize that a lot of people in my network are writing books. So I want to make sure that I dive into what it is that they want us to take away from their books. What's the value? Put a voice to what that book is supposed to be, and help them. Obviously, if I can help publicize that book and market that book and get it out there, I'm all for it. I love doing that in my network, just kind of cross networking between these different disparate circles of people that I know. So again, a book that's inspired them, one we can cover together that we've read together, or a third that's published. And that's what I want to do, is bring them here. The way that I want to set this up is that I want to ask them questions where you get an idea of who they are, you get an idea of what they do. So it gives you an idea of where they come from. Anytime I see a speaker, anytime I see a presenter, I want to know what they're presenting to me. How do they come across it? What is it they bring to that topic that they're discussing? I want to know their history so that you get almost like an authenticity, or you understand how they tie into it and you believe a little more why they're recommending certain things because you've heard their stories. So that's what I want to get into in these conversations. A friend of mine, again, like I said in episode 0, joked that this would be a book report. Absolutely not. The way that I interview people, the way that I love talking to people and getting to know people, that's exactly not what this is going to be. In any case, though, for this particular episode, because I'm bringing people on here and asking them to kind of open up about who they are, where they're from, what's important to them, how it ties into this book, what kind of advice they would give to people that are listening or watching, I figured I would do that myself. So I think it's only fair that I run myself through those questions that I would pose to them when they come on and talk to me. So I've gone through the questions before, but I'll just go through them again and give my responses the way that I would respond. And again, this is a little different. Obviously, I don't have somebody posing the questions to me. The biggest thing that I have done in some of the episodes that I've recorded so far is that although these are the 6 main questions, 6 or 7, there's a lot of follow-up. If I hear certain things in their voice, if I hear certain things in their stories, if I'm curious about how a certain path led them to where they are today, I've gone ahead and asked them. That's my favorite part. And it's not that I'm in here trying to dupe them into more serious or personal questions. These are the main questions I want to ask, but sometimes, they just give these little tidbits and I'm just curious. So I just want to pick at those other particular paths that have led them to where they are. I think everything factors into who we see before us, the value that they pour out. All of that has a story that goes back to even childhood or earlier than that. So in any case, let me jump into the questions that I would pose to them and I answer them myself right now. So who are you today? What's your background and profession? So my main passion right now is leadership performance coaching. And I do that in coaching. I do it in facilitations. I do a lot of writing. Now it's podcasting. Episode 0 kind of outlines what made me come to this podcasting passion all of a sudden. A lot had to do with the pandemic. So check out that episode. But I've also been a principal budget specialist for the state of Connecticut. I got a bachelor's in marketing, a master's in organizational psychology, and a master's in business administration, a certificate in mediation, and then again led me all to being a leadership performance coach. And I put performance in there because my thinking of leadership has evolved. It's much more proactive than I ever thought it would be as I was learning about it in school. I think it has to be a performance. I think the same way you think about athletes practicing and living their practices for that performance, for that result. I think that's the way leadership is. And my path, my education was a bit of a mishmash. I come from a blue collar background, immigrant parents. No one in my family had gone to college. There were no college graduates or white collar workers in my parents' circles. It was all blue collar workers, factory workers. So I didn't have that kind of, I guess, inspiration. Or I shouldn't say inspiration, because a lot of those people inspired me. The best skills that I have today are due to those blue collar jobs that I worked myself in a factory, in a hotel. Those first, lower level, frontline blue collar jobs. That is who I am now. Everything else just refined that. But if there was one thing in my past that I can point to that says that defines who I am, it's my family and those blue collar experiences. But in any case, because I didn't have anybody in my life like that, I was kind of just going by the seat of my pants. My parents wanted me as far away from factory work as possible. Obviously, that's like the immigrant story. So I'm like, okay, business. Now, up until that point, I'd been, and I still am, an introvert. So I'm very introspective. So psychology fascinated me. All I knew at that point was marketing. It's the cross section between psychology. You want to know what people are thinking, what drives them, and business, as far away from the factory as possible. So I got a marketing degree. And then my other ones were just later. Once I got my first full-time job, I heard about an organizational behavior. Then it was then called organizational psychology afterwards. And it seems like that's what I should have been in from the get-go. But, everything happens for a reason. And then when I finished that master's, to go on to get my MBA, I just needed a few more classes. So I got my MBA as well. And then mediation. I mean, I figure I've always been, I think, one of the friends that people could come to and for advice, or just an ear, or I don't know. I was always frustrated by how much miscommunication existed that got in people's way. So I went for a certificate in mediation. So it was a mishmash, that course of education, but everything led to what I am today. I mean, leadership performance coach, a lot of marketing goes into that, branding yourself. That's the way I think of leadership now. Is I've found that a lot of people, they may not know their value, or they know their value and they don't show it for whatever reason. And that's what we work on, whether it's confidence, they're not aware, whatever the case may be. But a lot of it now is designing and branding that leadership. And it's not a brand meaning you're hyping it up just to get sold and that's it. You have to stand behind it, right? So I'm not going to drown that conversation by saying authenticity the way you always hear about it. But so even though it all seems like a mishmash and it all is random, all of it has led me to where I am today. The next question, number 2, is what book are we discussing? So for me, it's The Leadership Challenge, How to Make Extraordinary Things Happen in Organizations. It's over my shoulder, to your left, my right. If you're watching it on video, if you're listening to this, it's over my shoulder behind me. But this is a seminal book, and this is a book that I came across. I believe it was in one of my MBA classes. It was one of my master's classes. And the next question is, can you provide an overview of the book, or what drove you to read this book, or what is it that stood out? So for this one, it was part of a curriculum. It was a leadership course. And this book just stood out because, like everything just resonated. I forget if it was in this episode just now or if I said it before, but a lot of people say that when they read a great book, it's one where somebody has articulated what's always resonated with that person. Maybe something they experienced but didn't know how to put to words. This was one that stood out like that. I've read other books that are about, leadership, whether it's like authenticity, the language, multiplying leaderships, deceiving yourself. But this one, pound for pound, and I'll get into why. This one, pound for pound, covers all the major areas that I think are like the pillars of leadership. It's a broad cross section of everything that I think is important to leadership. So specifically, what are your major takeaways from the book? That's question number 4. Okay. So the way I'm going to do it is I'm just going to break down the chapter titles. So I'm not going to go through all the chapters, but just the chapter titles to get you a sense of how it walks you through the message that it has. And this is a book that, again, is in curriculum, it's in workshops, it's in training. So this is a very well-known book, and it's just the one that stood out to me. So the foundation for this book is that there are 5 practices to kind of get to that foundation of leadership. And the 5 practices are: 1, model the way; 2, inspire a shared vision; 3, challenge the process; 4, enable others to act; 5, encourage the heart. Okay, so those are those cross sections, that broad coverage that I just mentioned before, that I think are so important to leadership. So under each of those practices, there are 2 subsections. So right now, I'll just give you a subsection so you get an idea for what that looks like, or what's covered in each of those practices. So the first one is model the way. And under that, you have clarifying values. So you find your voice and you affirm shared values. The second one under model the way is set the example. So live the shared values and teach others to model the values. Now, right there, you can just stop and think of the places where you've worked and just been like, wow, did I ever have a leader that really, really shared what the values were, or lived those shared values, or taught others to model those values? Or did I just work with a leader that just wanted to get the work done? And it's not to judge anybody, but this leadership is a matter of awareness. I think we're brought up to live in the process, to be reactive, to just get the job done. And we don't think too much about really stepping back and being proactive about how we tackle the work, how we inspire people, how we lead people. So practice 2 is inspire a shared vision. So under inspire a shared vision, you have 2 subsections. One is envision the future. So imagine the possibilities, find a common purpose. The second one under inspire a shared vision, enlist others, appeal to common ideals, animate the vision. So what are you driving towards? That, to me, is what this means, and I can't go too deep into every little thing that it might mean to me, but at the top level, what are you having people work towards? What are you designing for them? What are you inspiring for them? And again, think back. How many environments did you work in where a leader actually, practice 1, modeled the way; practice 2, inspired a shared vision? So practice 3, challenge the process. So under that, 2 subsections. One is search for opportunities. And that means seize the initiative, exercise outside. And that means look around, perceive what's around you. Don't just look through a tunnel vision at what is in front of you, but actually be perceptive about what's in front of you, what's around you. Not just the work that's immediately in front of you, because you lose sight of what's all around and what's possible. The second subsection under challenge the process is experiment and take risks, which means, generate small wins and learn from experience. Generate small wins. I mean, that one is amazing to me because I think too many people wait to see what the big wins are, what the major goals are. But this means take risks. This doesn't mean be frivolous with your energy. This doesn't mean be dangerous with your energy. But this section, challenge the process, is all about thinking and acting and asking, how are we doing this? Are we doing this the right way? Are there other possibilities out there to do this the right way? So practice 4, enable others to act. Under this one, there are 2 sections. Foster collaboration, which means create a climate of trust, facilitate relationships. Again, just always keeping in mind, thinking back to jobs that you've had, how often have leaders done that, right? Or just have they been supervisors and managers getting the work done? The second one under enable others to act, strengthen others. So enhance self-determination, develop competence and confidence. So how often do you see proactive managers, right? They're managers in title, but really empower you, really work on you, really look you in the eye? It's not just we're looking over here at the work here. That's your duty. Go do it and then come back. No, how often are they looking at your eye and really empowering you, really enabling you to get things done and to realize things about yourself? It doesn't mean empower doesn't mean here, I'm going to give you more tools that I can come up with to make you better. But it's also let's empower the tools that you have on you, in you that you don't even know about. Those are the best leaders, the ones that bring out of you what you didn't even know was possible, what you didn't even know was there. The last practice, encourage the heart. So for me, leadership is about the heart, right? And management is about the process. And you can't have one without the other. So as much as I love leadership, if you're a great leader and you do all these things, but you don't have the processes down, if you don't have the management down, the work is going to suffer. The business is going to go down the tubes and no one's going to have a job tomorrow. So you need that balance of management and leadership. I'm not the first to write about it, but I've lent my voice to that argument and that process as well. But in any case, practice 5, encourage the heart, means the first subsection, recognize contributions. So expect the best, personalize recognition. And then the second subsection, celebrate the values and victories, create a spirit of community, get personally involved. Hopefully this one speaks for itself. All people want, really, right? I mean, we could all use more money. We could all use a bigger paycheck. We're not going to lie. Let's not lie and say money's not important. Of course it's important. But leaders forget how often people will be satisfied. People will be encouraged if you just thank them and use their name. Really look them in the eye, see them as a person, see them as a human, and make sure that they know that you see them, that you're aware that they did the work they did, and that it's not just a general thank you to the entire business, but really personalizing it. It's that personal touch. It's that humanity. And a lot of that is missing from leadership. And the best leaders, I'm certain as I went through this list, I'm certain that you had good ideas as I went from one practice to the next and the subsections. If you went back to your managers, you could say, okay, this person was good in this area, not good in this one, good in all of these, not good in any of them, because these are all things that are in play, but we don't think about them at the time because we're just trying to survive that 9 to 5. We're just trying to survive our shift. So that is, an overview of the book. So that's one of the questions is, can you give us an overview of the book? The 5th question is, how do you apply these lessons to your life, leadership, and work overall? Now, truth be told, a lot of people have said that the book that they chose to discuss with me is one that they've gone to a lot. It's one that they've gone to once a year, twice a year. They read it on a regular basis. I haven't read this book in about 15 years. Maybe a little less than that, but over a decade for sure. But it's no matter what I read about leadership, no matter what book I take in, no matter what lessons I learn, that one is that foundation of just covering everything. So much so that I've gifted it to people just because I think it provides one of the best examples of the best lessons, the best bang for the buck, where other ones are more specific. This one, again, covers so many different areas. Excuse me. So this next question is, how do you apply those lessons? So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through the practices, nothing crazy, but just go through the practices again and just give you an example of what I do, what I take away from them. So practice number 1 is model the way. I try to set an example. And again, as a leadership coach, no one is perfect. I am the first one to tell you I'm not perfect. I'm the first one to tell you I'm a work in progress. People find it funny that I may go to coaches for help. Everybody's human. The best thing about coaching is that you can speak to somebody outside of yourself to help you walk through your thoughts. So I'm not perfect by any means. I'm a work in progress. Model the way. I try to set the example. I try to put out there what I want to see in the world. I try to talk to people the way that I want to see people spoken to. Model the way is this series, this podcast series. I want to see more of these conversations out there. So if I don't see somebody else asking people for these kind of questions and getting to that kind of value, hell, I'll step up and do it myself, and I'll try my best, and hopefully I get it right. But model the way. Yeah, this is something I want to see. And I don't think enough people put out into the world what they want to see. I think they deal a lot with the cards that have been dealt to them. Some circumstances, yes, they can't help it. But most of us, I think, we don't step out of our comfort zone. And that sounds very cliche, but I think we play it safe. So model the way is, do what you want to see. You have to design your world. I've found in the moments wherever I might have been sad or down or disappointed or any kind of negative emotion, for the most part, it was in instances where I kind of forfeited control, where I left it to circumstance, where I left it to the environment without inserting what I should have done for myself or built for myself or provided for myself. So model the way, whatever it is you want to do, you have a role in trying to do what you can to put that out there so that you see it and create that ripple effect of who you are. Practice 2, inspire a shared vision. This one I do a lot on a one-to-one basis where I want to get my colleagues, my connections, my friends, my family members to where they believe they want to go. Believe meaning they don't have it perfectly. They don't have it perfectly refined. They don't have it perfectly set. But again, I think this is where I believe most of us are very reactive, and I want people to look up, look ahead, and consider what they have in terms of their resources to get to where they want to go. Uh, in many cases, I always say that support is great. If you have a support system, that's amazing. You need people that are going to say, okay, you did a good job or it didn't work out. We're here for you. But who are your accountability partners? Who are the ones that are going to kick you in the ass? Who are the ones that have your best interest in mind? That's the biggest key, is the ones that have your best interest in mind, to make sure that you're moving forward towards what you want. There's a difference between supporting somebody and being their accountability partner, making sure that they're giving whatever they can, whatever you know, and maybe they don't see in themselves, to whatever they're trying to do. So that's inspire to share vision. Practice 3, challenge the process. This is me. This is me to a T. I can't help it. I practice with a lot of candor. I'm very honest. People say that when they hear me speak, they're like, "Oh yeah, you're very opinionated." I think it's more, and opinionated sounds bad, but I think it's more candor, where I respect myself far too much. I respect the people around me far too much. I respect the situation in front of me way too much to hold my tongue if there's something that I can contribute that's going to make it better, or it's going to get us to think in a certain way to move towards something better. I've worked with too many people where they've held their tongue in certain moments, and you ask them, why didn't you say something? Or not in hindsight, but in the moment, they're like, no, this isn't going to work. They shouldn't do that. This is all wrong. And you're like, all right, say something. Like, no, 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 it's not my place. I don't understand that, because if we all move forward down the wrong path and you had some kind of insight that could have helped us at point A and we move towards point B, but we should be at point C, you're responsible for that. We're all responsible for that. So I think as soon as you have some kind of observation that helps you get to the meat of the conversation, in a constructive, in a productive, in a tactful, in a respectful way, I love to challenge the process. And this was especially the case when I was working jobs, because I want to challenge the process, because at that point it was that I was lazy. I want to challenge the process to make sure we get the best result using the most efficient process that we know of, or at least be curious about it before we waste our time. I don't like inefficiency, and that goes back to the blue collar work. It's some of it is hard physical work. A lot of it is quality based, quality control. Whether you're in a factory, in a hotel, you got to make sure that we're the vendor, that our customer, our client has the right materials, the right products with the right measurements for their supply chain. If you're in a hotel, you have to make sure that the guest has the best experience possible, because both of those dictates what comes back to you. The word of mouth that comes back to you, that builds your future. So for me, challenge the process, when it was working with my hand, with my sleeves rolled up, it had a lot to do with, I don't want to do this again. I want to try to get this as right as possible. It doesn't have to be perfect. Anybody that knows me will tell you I'm not a perfectionist, but I do want to work in the best method that I have. So I want to keep my eyes open and my awareness attuned. So that, to me, challenge the process is the one that is me to a T. Enable others to act. This is also me. This is practice number 4. It's not as much me as practice number 3, but this is all me because I want to empower people to act. I think too many people wait on the sidelines. I think too many people keep their heads down. I think too many people bite their tongues. Um, where I think you just have to be able to know how good you are, do your due diligence, practice as much as you need to, prepare as much as you want and need to. But I love enabling others to act. You'd be surprised, and you've probably seen this, how much it doesn't take to get somebody to move, to get somebody to work in the right direction. All they need sometimes is just a word, some words of advice, some words of encouragement, a conversation, a podcast. A major driver behind this series is that I hope that these kind of conversations light a fuse in people. I said that in episode 0. There's sometimes where I've heard conversations where you could be in a not so good position and you hear a great conversation, it inspires you, it opens up your mind, and then you build from there. Or you're already in a good state and you hear a great conversation and it keeps you motivated, it keeps you pushing forward. So enable others to act. I think if more people acted in the way that was in their hearts, and maybe it's a matter of them trying to find out what that is, I think the world would be a better place. So that's one that I find very important. And then the last one, encourage the heart. I mean, I want to enable others to act by reaching their heart, finding out what's important to them, finding out what's motivating to them. I don't know. It's just, I think that goes back to my culture. My family's Colombian, so I think it has a lot to do with, we're just a very loving community, loving family, loving culture. It's all about family and friends. So I think that extends to, again, who you are, whether it's your culture, whether it's your personality, that is going to leak over into leadership. There is no threshold where one stops fully for the other when you're going into the workplace and out. So my culture is about community. It's about food and laughter and fun. So I want to encourage that heart. I want to encourage it with all the tools that we have. Obviously, it's not going to be food, unfortunately, in every situation, but I want to make sure that people are motivated. I want to make sure that people are seen. It's amazing the results you get when you just see somebody. When they see you, see them. It's amazing. And that's when I think you get the best out of your people. It's, this isn't rocket science. This is, you hear this all the time, whether it's on radio and articles and books. But when you see it in play, you realize it's for you. You realize it's genuinely you to drive somebody to do what's in their heart. So at the very least, consider what's in their heart. And it's not going to look the same from person to person. Not everybody, let me be clear, not everybody needs this book. Not everybody thinks in these ways. Some people are fine with the 9 to 5, do my job, have fun, whatever it may be. And that's absolutely fine. Anytime I've written, anytime I've spoken, I've always said, I just want to share options with people. I want to share the lens through which I see things with people. This doesn't mean that it's for everybody, but it's an option. So all of these are great options. Hopefully the way that I've broken this down and the way that my guests will break it down in coming episodes will encourage people to see things a little differently, maybe pick up that book, maybe say, no, it's not for me, but I'll listen to the next episode. Or maybe the book's not for me, but I hear what this person is doing, what their background is, and I hear their voice, their personality, and I think I need that person to work with. There's so many things that can come from this series that I can't wait to get to that part of it. But the next question 6, is in general, what would you say to anybody about this book? So the major thing about this is, specifically, I want people to tell me what they took away for their profession, for their life, but they also want, or I want them to share in general, how would you provide this advice to anybody, regardless of what industry they're in? How can they apply this to their job? When it comes to this book, it's leadership is, again, it's so general, it applies everywhere. That's what I love. I can go into an industry I've never worked in, and because I'm curious, and I've been a good student, I can pick things up very quickly, but the leadership lessons are the same. I've joked that the lessons are the same in the executive suite as they are down in daycare when I pick up my kid. It sounds, like I said, it sounds cheeky, but the lessons are the same no matter the age. It's just, the level of sophistication, the level of the vernacular you use, the level of specialization, the person that you're working with, what is their working style. But the lessons are so general in this book that this can apply to anybody. So you can pick this book up and apply it whether or not you work on a garbage truck, whether or not you're a community organizer, or a doctor or a lawyer, accountant, landscaper, family. Again, the lessons from leadership to business, to your work, to your family, to your friendships, it's all similar. If you sit down with me, there's a way that I can apply whatever lesson in leadership you want to learn across all those different lives that you have and you live. I mean, the lessons are just so general. So I think it's applicable to anybody, no matter their industry. In terms of what I'm up to these days, that's the next question. This is a chance where I'm going to give my guests a moment to market what they're up to. For me, this is my main driver for the foreseeable future is this series. So this is what I really want to work on. I'm trying to do a lot of writing too, volunteering writing, volunteering coaching, volunteering speaking engagements as well, wherever I can. I think this is a year of service for me. So I've been doing a lot of that. And just follow me on social media, because you'll always get a sense for who I am, what I'm up to, and who I value in my community, because I'll always be sharing posts about what people are up to, who's looking for a job, who's offering a job, who's speaking, who has what kind of program or initiative going. So that's what I'm up to these days. And you'll hear more about it as we go through these episodes. And that's pretty much it. This is pretty much the way that it's going to break down the questions that I just posed to myself and answered. Again, if you have a great book, let me know. If you want to come on here and discuss it with me, let me know. John M. Jaramillo at coachitout.com, or reach out to me through social media. If you found this on social media, subscribe wherever you're watching it, or subscribe wherever you're listening to it, whatever, whether it's YouTube or your podcast platforms. Reach out, let me know how I'm doing. I want to make sure that I get this right. I love the fact that there is no script, even though I'm reading from one right now. Or the highlights of what I want to hit. This is something that's exploratory. So again, I want you to come along with me on this journey. I think it's going to be fun. I think it's going to be interesting, and I'll talk to you soon. Take care. All the best. Bye.